Okay, shall we begin? Is the camera recording? Hello everyone, my name is Anton Antonov. Let's say it all together now. Hello, Anton Vladimirovich. So how do you communicate when you are excited? Good guess, in an excited way. And how do you say that you're cheerful? Cheerfully. I'm glad that you have all gathered here today. Some of you may already know me, as some of you have attended my events more than once, and I don't really understand why you're still here. Presumably, I'm not going to say anything new today. Although, of course, there will be certain elements from which you will be able to learn something new for yourself. But if I'm completely honest, I do understand why people attend such kind of events more than once, because as I have repeatedly said, and I'm saying it again, only 3% of all the new information that we have not come across before is absorbed by human brain. Can you imagine? Out of everything you'll hear today, only 3% will be soaked up. That is, 1% will be taken from the beginning, the other one from somewhere in the middle, and the third from the end of the session. And then you will leave and you'll start telling everyone, listen, all the sicknesses come from our head. And that's really it. Therefore, if I may ask you not to write anything down, because when you're writing, you get distracted. Of course, there will be certain elements that might get you hooked, maybe some insights or some unknown terms, you can note them down, but I would not recommend it for those who are here for the first time. I would simply not recommend it, alright? Obviously, it's not a strict rule. I'm glad that all of you are here, that you've managed to come, that, well, probably not all of you, but at least half of you got long faces, and that is very good. I would say it's even perfect. I see some people have a depression. And I often do it like this. I feel ovarian cysts. I feel this, yeah. And that's great. If anyone has any kind of symptoms today, and by the way, what do we call symptoms? Well, something that hurts, something turns red, maybe your tail has fallen off, right? Do you remember that popular Russian cartoon? Today, we can already work with it. And if anyone has any kind of pain, maybe in the back, maybe in the neck, in the muscles, in the bones, elsewhere, today we can work with it and demonstrate to others how it works and explain why it works in that particular way. The thing is that I have started receiving private messages again. I've posted one video when we restored eyesight of a girl, and I do it at almost every seminar. But I've never shared it publicly before, and I haven't advertised myself. Maybe I was a bit shy or afraid of something. I don't really know the reason. And I'm getting messages again saying that all of this is deception, this is all prearranged with fake people, and this is impossible. I do understand the human skepticism, this is totally normal. The traditional medicine, the pharma industry, or our entire ideology have been teaching us since childhood that if our eyesight has failed, this is it. We need some surgery or expensive medicine, right? Well, or we have to engage in certain practices. But again, the traditional medicine still does not recommend the latter. So what does medicine tell us instead? Or what does pharma say? Well, there's only me, that's only us, and that's it. There's nothing else. Everything else does not work. Now, guys, if you can finish that conversation, that would be lovely. Thank you. According to the medical industry statistics, 40 to 60% of all the sick people in the world who apply for medical treatment do not survive. It turns out that an average of 50% of those who seek medical treatment do not pull through. 50%. And what does traditional medicine do? It says there's only me and nothing else works, and kills 50% of the people. I think this is unfair to some extent. Of course, this is mostly about money and profit, and I think if some of us were in that industry, we would quite possibly do the same. I personally would not deny it. I haven't been there, I do not know what it means to be a tycoon of the industry. But that's true. I do not like it that the medicine does not give us an opportunity to research for additional solutions. It does not suggest, well, go out and look for alternative ways. We've got stage 4 cancer here. It doesn't matter what kind of diagnosis it is, but it's a cancer diagnosis. And it doesn't recommend to go and research. Instead, it says, come here, remove it, use chemotherapy and irradiate cells. And that's all. We no longer know what to do. May I talk about oncological diagnosis straight away? Because I know how much fear tumors cause. And I know what particular fears they can cause and how these fears work. And I'll start with them. Is it okay? Okay, Anton Vladimirovich. Didn't you just get enough sleep or what? I specifically scheduled our event at noon. Alright, so where were we? Oncological diagnosis. Just have a look. Who said that? I can count 1, 2, 3. I've already noticed you, okay, so your execution will be held in the first place. You'll be the first. Traditional medicine does not give us an opportunity to choose. So what does it do? For instance, I have an oncological diagnosis, I'm all covered in tumors, and then I go to a doctor and I said, Doc, I don't know what to do. And what does the doctor offer? Don't worry, he says, we'll recommend you this new best scalpel, some new chemotherapy from Israel. It's a bit more expensive, but it's absolutely brilliant. And the irradiation of cells is also possible, right? And you say, okay, well, you get the feeling. I get the feeling that here comes the rescue. Now I'll undergo surgery, irradiate cells, and everything will be okay. And then what happens next? I go through irradiation process, remove the tumor, and then the doctor says, well, that's it. We've done everything we could. Sorry, now you can leave. You can go and pray, right? And let's hope there's no relapse. And then you realize that you haven't thought about what could happen next. You heard about the salvation, shifted responsibility to somebody else, but the salvation does not turn out to be there. And moreover, they will write down that this is a remission. They won't tell you that you've recovered. They will say it's only a remission. And I actually know that to some extent this is actually true, because nobody can guarantee, even us, that the tumors will not reappear. But we do guarantee that if you process this through your psyche, it will not come back in the same place. Never. Because you have developed, you have evolved, and in general, the evolution and internal evolution of each of you is my goal today. My goal is that you take another small or another big step or a few steps within yourself so that you understand what is really going on inside of you when you have some kind of pain. Not only when something hurts, but how you build relationships, how you find acquaintances or friends, and even how you choose neighbors. Today, I would like not only to explain, but to demonstrate this to you so that you can see, feel, and most importantly, realize it. My name is Anton Antonov and I'm a psychologist, a clinical psychologist and an expert in the field of modern psychosomatics. If you're interested, I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. I just have a feeling that some of you are already tired about how much I love to brag about it. No? Aren't you tired? Okay, I'm Anton Antonov, a child with deviant behavior, right? If anyone knows, it's an unruly kid. Violent, nervous, uncontrollable, and prone to addictive behavior. And it seems to me that I'm still exactly the same. Well, addiction is dependence, isn't it? So I'm still prone to addictions, but now my inclination or dependence manifests itself towards psychosomatics. This is something I can talk about endlessly until my strength runs out, and apparently I'll do this all my life if I don't find something else, of course, unless I find some more interesting teaching for myself. But it seems to me that this is my entire life. It seems like this is a part of me and I'm here to talk about this. I didn't ask for this, I didn't order this path. When I was with a psychologist one day, she said to me, you talk as if it were some kind of a punishment for you. No, not a punishment, but if I were asked, where would you like to be born? How would you like to live? I would say, I want to be handsome and fit. Well, it has worked, mostly, but obviously there is a room for improvement. But I would like to grow in a good family and so that everything is really cool. Well, however, my family is excellent, and of course, just with our own issues, no one is to blame for anything. Your mother, your father, your grandparents, your guardians, no one is to blame for what they pass on you. Because I'll tell you a little secret. All that you are is what you get from your parents. We'll talk about this today. Yes, including the psychology, the way you are is a set of everyone who was there before you. Including your psyche, your reactions, all your jealousy, anger, aggression, love, all of those things you inherit from your relatives. Of course, now we have a modern ideology. You are all by yourself, you can do anything by yourself, you are an individual. And we begin to disconnect from our family. We don't start leaving it, of course, and it does not apply to everyone, but for some people it looks like they are a kind of an all-metal shell, and everything that happens to them belongs to them, and they have invented it themselves and they worked on it by themselves. Well, at least that's how I used to live. It seemed to me that it was all me, and that's the way I was. And then it turned out that 80% of my reactions, emotions, my whining, my tears, well, everything that I had in my life, and until a certain age, I had nothing else. All I used to do was whining, I was aggressive, and I was angry, and as a result of inability to be aware of these emotions, my body was looking for any opportunity for self-therapy. Okay? So I became addicted. At the age of 6, I started smoking cigarettes. At 9, drinking alcohol. At 15, am I allowed to say this? If everyone else will watch this. So, at the age of 20, I got hooked on injecting drugs, if anyone knows what it is. And now I hear people say that this is a choice of an individual to drink alcohol or smoke or inject drugs. I explain that this is not the case. I explain that this is some self-therapy of a body. The body is looking for any opportunity to self-therapy in order to relieve inner emotions and that human is not aware of. The tension is so high, it's so unbearable inside that the body wants to release it. And this also applies to antisocial behavior in general, including everything we know about what is going on. Naturally, I do not justify anyone. Never. I just try to explain, and I carry this idea that any behavior can be explained. There is no need to criticize anyone right away and put some kind of a label on somebody. Any behavior can be explained, and I know it from my own experience, who I am, what I've gone through, and it's now clear to me why I used to do it. And as a result, at the age of 23, I heard a little something about psychology. Well, let's say part of my mind looked at it, and it shook me to the core. I changed my life. For a couple of years, I was trying to quit drugs with the help of psychology. By the age of 25, I did it. And as soon as it happened, I went to study. So now I have several additional degrees in the field of psychology. I never stop. I continue to study, seminars, training, books, and so on. And I have a clinical psychologist qualification. In general, I specialize in diagnosis, but it turns out that modern psychosomatics refers to all spheres of our lives. And all that we are, our actions, our whole life, is psychosomatics. That is, based on something that happens in our psyche, we take a step left or right, okay? Or does it somehow happen by itself, in your case? You choose people to work based on what you have in mind. Isn't it so? No? It's not right? Tell me more.
Well, but you can feel people empirically.
And where is this happening in your case? This sense of feeling. And what's the feeling, by the way?
Well, I don't know. It seems to me that this is a little different than thoughts.
And is this happening in you? I mean, inside of you?
Yes, of course. Probably.
Is the body somat? Somat. And where do you feel it? In your mind or where?
For me, a thought is a thought. That is what I'm thinking in my head.
Wait, but did I mention thought? We will talk about this later, okay? We'll talk about this. However, you're absolutely right. I just haven't reached that point yet to explain it in a way you do it. Okay, I'll tell you now. Guys, your thought is secondary. You don't really control yourself. I mean, our thinking process does not control us. That is, we don't control ourselves through thinking. The process of thinking is secondary. Can you imagine it? And I know you may be thinking, what? What is this bald man saying? What is he talking about? Let's say that a thought comes to me that I want to go outside. I'll go out. And then I'll think that I want, to sit down and be silent, for instance. So I'll sit down and I'm quiet. Maybe I think that I want to register my apartment to his name, and I'll do it. Is that right? Is that a thought? That is a thought. But before, our feeling comes first. We'll talk more about this later. What is the secondary nature of our thinking? Why don't we really control ourselves? I'll explain this, show it, and prove it to you, of course. Everything that I'm going to tell you today will be evidence-based. I'll try to prove it right here and now. Maybe it won't be successful with everyone, but it will be evident in majority of cases, most certainly. Alright, so who knows anything about psychosomatics? All the straight A students, please be quiet. The question is for those who have never attended. What is psychosomatics? A couple of people who are here for the first time. All problems arise from the head. And what are those problems?
Mind problems?
In thinking process, you mean?
Well, yes.
Then why don't we think in such a way that everything turns out great?
Cannot.
We cannot.
We cannot control our thinking.
And why aren't we able to control it?
I don't know. We didn't learn how to.
Alright, is everything clear? That is, I won't ask questions about anything anymore. Are there any conscious people in the audience? Well, I mean, those of you who consider themselves conscious, raise your hands. There's one person, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. Someone over there hesitated, or maybe hands became itchy, or you wanted to fix the jacket. Are there more aware individuals in the house? Good. Here, a girl with a Coca-Cola t-shirt. Obviously, this is not an advertisement. What is awareness in your understanding?
For me, consciousness is some feeling in the first place. A certain feeling, whether there is a response in my body or not.
A response in the body?
Yes, whether there is a response in my body or not. I always ask myself whether I want something or not.
But do you mean that the reaction in your body is not always there? You've mentioned that there is some feeling in the body. So there are some moments.
I've learned to notice it recently.
So you feel nothing in some moments, or what?
I used to be confused between the feeling of anxiety and tranquility.
So this is a feeling. That is, you always feel, or not always.
Now I always feel, but I may not know the feeling.
So consciousness is when I can identify my feelings. Okay, I see. Now who else can tell me what awareness or consciousness is?
It's the process of observing one's own thoughts and feelings.
The process of observing thoughts. The process of observing? That is whether you can observe them or not. Or what?
Observing them in order to control them.
In order to control them. Okay, now the Coca-Cola girl, you need to see that guy. He knows something about this and how to control all this and what to do with it, right?
Maybe that's a response to when our body speaks to us or something like that. That is to be able to hear it in the moment and respond to it.
It's an ability to hear it in the moment and respond. So doesn't it always speak to you?
Well, there is something happening all the time. The body always speaks, and there is always something talking in the body.
So you mean that it would be desirable to pay attention, but you don't do it? Or you don't pay attention on purpose? So, maybe you think, well, whatever. What is my body trying to tell me anyway? I know everything here, what to do, where to go. But I'm still sitting here and thinking, why on earth am I still eating in the evenings? Why do I have such an incomprehensible boyfriend? Or maybe my girlfriend is having the best time of her life with another guy already.
Because it is more convenient to play a victim. Well, as if I don't understand anything. This is not my responsibility.
Yeah, but the question was about awareness. So, look, there is a scientific research, yes, it's already very old, and it tells us that our today's thoughts are 95% similar to our thoughts of yesterday. Well, that's on average an approximate figure, but something else is even more interesting. It's fascinating that if I ask you to tell me about your day yesterday, not even about your thoughts, but just about your day, you would probably remember maximum 2 or 3 hours you can talk about. This is the maximum. Just try to retell everything that happened straightforwardly. And then you must be super advanced to be able to do that. Now, if I ask any of you to do it, you will tell me everything that was happening maximum for an hour. An hour is about 5% of yesterday, or even less. Yeah? Am I right?
And what if I fully remember the whole day?
You can't recall everything. You can remember just certain events. For example, I visited that place, I went there, but you can't tell me what you were thinking all day, even for an hour. I'm sorry, but this is just how your brain works. Of course, there's an interesting theory of sub-personality when we talk about our yesterday only out of our current personality, which we are now. I would say based on the state in which we are now. If we had a similar state at same point yesterday, then we can recall all the thoughts or similar states. For example, if I'm angry now and you ask me, tell me about yesterday, I will say something like, this one guy made me really angry yesterday. And that's it. I won't even remember the kindness of yesterday because I'm in a certain state now. Does anyone disagree? If so, tell me. Let's discuss it now. And somebody started to defend herself. What happened? Everything is okay. All is good.
Can't you remember yesterday through the prism of emotions?
Through the prism of emotions, you won't be able to remember your thoughts. You won't remember what you were thinking about. Tell me now, what were you thinking about during your dinner time? And a smile immediately appears, see?
I had a terrible, boring transformation game.
No, what were you thinking about?
That I had to leave the place as soon as possible.
Oh, cool, isn't it? So how long does this thought last? Anything else you'd like to tell me? So you mean that you were just sitting there and thinking, I have to leave, I have to leave, I have to leave, I have to leave, all over again? You know where people usually end up with such symptoms, when they usually cannot stop ruminating thoughts and we cannot stop it. If we're talking about awareness, all those of you who raise their hands, please tell me how often, in percentage terms, you don't do things that you want to do. For example, you go to the gym, start learning something, clean up, whatever. What percentage out of 100? Pardon? Half of it, that's 50%. See, you're 50% aware, right? And now the second question. What percentage out of 100 you do things that you don't want to do? In percentage, how well? Well, the second half. Obviously, there about 5% remains, approximately. So, who's conscious again? Raise your hands. Who's the most aware here? I don't consider myself a conscious person. This is the proof. Yes, obviously it is my proof, but I mean it is based on the studies that I've read, realize and know, as well as observations of myself. Sorry, but we're just not aware. We enjoy to call ourselves like that, but we don't understand what we genuinely mean by this concept. We've just picked up some cool words. We've heard consciousness, and another one, success, and then we heard an awesome word, psychosomatics, and let's just do it right away. But there's nothing comprehensible at all, right? And today I reveal this incomprehensible to you a little. What is the real scientific psychosomatics, the one that really works? You are in a certain state of mind right now, and I like it that we started talking about feelings. I really like it. We are in a certain state at the moment, and all of you feel something now. Well, except for Zhenya probably. I guess, Zhenya, do you feel anything at all? It seems like you drifted away somewhere. So, you're all in a certain state right now, and answer yourself the following question. What do you feel inside? You can give a name to this feeling. Describe it in your head in one word. What do you feel? Now ask yourself where these feelings are in your body. In which part of the body is the feeling concentrated? Now, we feel with the help of the body, don't we? Or what? Guys, how do we feel? With the help of the body. So the feeling that you have identified yourself, where is it in your body? Tell me, in which part is it concentrated? Yeah, look, well, someone is pointing to the chest. In the chest, right here, maybe a bit lower, in the head. Someone may have alexithymia. That is when the body is disconnected from the head. This is not a diagnosis, this is a psychiatric term. We have just come across the idea that everything, absolutely everything, goes to one destination. So, you all feel something. And now I'll tell you this. Imagine that you are in your country, at home in Moscow or wherever you live. Imagine that you're there. Do feelings change? Yes, but how is that? You're all here, aren't you? Why does it change? What's happening? Do your thoughts fly there? And why do they fly there? What happened to your thoughts that they flew there? Who controls your thoughts?
It seems to me that our brain simply doesn't tell the difference between fantasy and reality.
Absolutely right, but we're talking about something else. Why does the body switch to another state so easily? Who am I anyway to say one word and your feelings have changed? What's happening? You can be influenced in such a way? Sorry? Well, of course, everything is clear with you. Everything is great. In your case, you're conscious, your thoughts aren't playing, you've already understood that. And that's probably why you're sitting on the front row. Maybe something will change in your view or ideology. Okay, so we're getting started here. Let's get to the information already. I can keep on talking about all of this for a very long time, very compelling and all very cool if you're interested. But I think we can cut to the chase already, and as a result, we'll all work through and resolve some things, right? Or not? Or maybe you'd like me to talk a bit further, switch on a couple of symptoms in you, and then get started? Okay, let's activate something, shall we? I am Anton Antonov, happiness and goodness, so to speak. Anton Antonov. Well, here I am, passing you by, walking around. And here I am, Anton Antonov, guys. Hello, everyone. Hello. Just feel how does it feel when Anton Antonov is walking around. Now, who's sitting in the back? What's happening? Why?
I've got a lumbar herniated disc.
A lumbar hernia. May I speak about this? Because we can resolve it now. Great. I'd say it's even perfect. Sorry, but it is really perfect. So here I am, Anton Antonov. Here I am. I'm passed by all of you. So all of you have come here. Everyone has come to listen to me. By the way, I forgot to say how I got into psychosomatics. I've started very hard since the age of 7, and at some moments I could not even utter a sound. I didn't talk at all. Even today, you'll notice it sometimes. I guess it's already happened once where I just can't pronounce anything. In case you haven't noticed, that's how I got into psychosomatics. What does medicine and what do logopedists say about this? They say it's impossible to get rid of stuttering. Those logopedists that have told me that, go and watch this video. Guys, this is really like it is. And now look. Now I am cancer. Some oncological diagnosis. I am an oncological diagnosis. I am cancer. Just feel it. How do you feel when I'm here? I am cancer. How do you feel it, Yulia? I am cancer, an oncological diagnosis, some tumor. Yes, I am a tumor. Just feel it, I am a tumor and I'm coming to you. Now I'll become you, right now, I'll become you. I'll happen to you now. It's not cool, is it? Not cool at all. I am tumor, guys. I am a tumor. I am a tumor. A tumor. Whose feelings have changed, guys? Raise your hands. Honestly, who has felt tension? Well, almost everyone, right? So what has happened? Same person walked around and just said one word to you, and not only have your feelings changed, but now you are scared and felt tension. Psychological processes have begun to occur in your body. Okay, so shall we make a brief digression now? We have one viewer here with us with a symptom. Something hurts. Can we just make it easier for her to be here now? Can you come here, please? Yes. Well, if it hurts. Now, someone will say these are fake people and it's a prearranged, yes?
Of course, it's an actor.
Yes, she really doesn't have any pain, but I'm already used to. How are you?
I'm going to cry now.
Oh, I'm sorry. And what's your name?
Regina.
And where do you feel pain? Show me.
Here and in the leg.
In your leg. And how many years do you feel this?
Well, 2 years ago it got worse.
Is that a herniated disc? Give me your hand. Take it easy and tell me how much pain is there in your back right now?
It doesn't hurt while standing.
And when does it hurt then?
When I lean over or sit down.
And can you lean over a bit to feel the pain? Yes, like that. How old are you? Her hand already has tightened, by the way. And how old are you?
34.
34. Now, you are you. You're 30 years old. Just feel your back. 25 years old. Be patient. 20 years old. 15 years old. 10 years old. 5 years old. 3 years old. 1 year old. And what do you feel now in your back, Regina?
It doesn't hurt anymore.
Well, am I a wizard or what? All of you can do it, guys. There is no magic here. I want to convey this message to you today. You are being deceived. You're told that you are incurable. You are told that if something hurts, go to the pharmacy. Sorry, but this is just how our capitalist system works. Now let's try to find where it all started. We'll try to alleviate the symptom at least for the duration of the seminar. Come on, now you are you and you're 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, 14, 15, 16. Yes, what happened there? Any picture that comes to you?
I remember school.
And yes, what you remember from school? What happened there? Come on, that's the one, come on.
Boys, difficult years of adolescence, low self-esteem, fat teenager.
Yes, and somebody said or did anything? I'm covered in goosebumps.
It was constant pressure.
Now, who said or did something for the first time? What happened there? Yes, there it is. Come on, say it, come on.
Well, they wanted to get to my body, abuse me.
Okay, now you are you, the day before this happened. You are you, the day before that all happened. How is the back? Is it calm or not?
Well, it's not so intense.
Now you are you, 1 year before this happened. How's the back?
Great.
Yes, and there I appear, Anton Antonov, and I'll tell you everything that will happen to you at your school. There will be pressure on you and they will try to get to your body. Now, you are you and you are 5 years old, 3 years old, 1 year old, 1 day old. You were just born. Now you're in your mom's belly and you are 7 months old, 5 months old, 1 month old. And now you are 1 day old. You were just conceived and no one knows about you yet. Okay, now you are you, but you're not incarnated yet. You're flying somewhere in the universe as some kind of energy, choosing the future family. And how does it feel? Still taut?
Very much.
Now you are your mother a month before her pregnancy. You are your mother and you are 15 years old. You are your mother and you're 5 years old. And now you are your mother and you are just 1 month old. And now you are your mother, you were just born. What is
Still taut.
You are your mother's mother and you're 5 years old. How does it feel?
Still hurts.
And you are your mother's mother and you're 1 year old.
Stronger.
And now you are your mother's grandmother and you are 5 years old.
Stronger.
Now you are your mother's great-grandmother.
Even stronger.
You are your mother's great-great-grandmother and you are 1 year old.
All right.
It doesn't matter, and there I appear and say, "Dear good woman, I understand that all of you have such a mess here. Don't pass this strategy on. One of your great-granddaughters does not need it at all. She'll have her own questions and issues to solve. Does she agree with me or not? What is the answer that comes to the request of not passing it on?"
She doesn't agree.
Doesn't she agree? Ask her why. What words come to your mind? Why doesn't she agree? Why does she want everyone to suffer? Okay, now you are you again, here and now. When it hurts like that, what kind of person are you? Describe yourself in one word. Describe in one adjective.
Helpless?
Well, will you allow yourself to be helpless?
No.
For 1 minute, just for 1 minute, come on, once more. Okay, so when you're helpless, what are you like? Another word.
Weak?
Yes, and would you allow yourself to be weak? Just for 1 minute. Just for one, will you? And when you are weak, what are you like? One word.
Feminine?
Yes.
A woman?
Yes.
They were all very strong women in our family.
How it is there?
I don't feel the pain in my leg anymore.
Okay, let's applaud. Such a good girl. Go and have a seat. If anything pops up, you'll come back. Who would have doubted? Now, what would they have done in a hospital now, especially in an Indonesian one? Cash. We need your money. We do not know what's happening, but we can remove the symptoms. I will say that none of the doctors are to blame. Doctors themselves as individuals. They can be our fathers, mothers, or anyone. They're not to blame. They just don't know. They're not informed about it. The mighty of this world do actually know what is happening. Okay, are there any questions about what I have just done? We just reached to our grandmothers and grandfathers, and I understand that somebody may feel like, well, what the hell was that? Does anyone feel like that?
Well, does it happen for just one session, or 2 or 3?
I like to work efficiently. I always explain to everyone that I like to resolve a problem in one session. I'm not talking about oncological diagnosis though. In case of oncological diagnosis, it happens that as a result of one click, the tumor disappears in a month or 2, but I cannot guarantee this. This is the case 1 out of 100. Sorry, but this is just the way it is, because a tumor is a whole strategy. Right here in Regina's case, that was a whole strategy. Did you see that? All the women have been strong in the family line. She's suffering from either a hip joint or a bone problem, but most likely it's a joint due to the lumbar area. I'll tell about it in an hour or so. It's a very generalized self-devaluation. Well, it's clear that there were women and there was no men. So a woman had to be strong, to raise children, run the house, run the household, whatever. I don't know how they lived there, but she did not succeed. What was going on in the body, in the psyche, and a conflict? I have to be strong, but I can't. And the psyche begins to load these emotions onto the body due to the fact that a person can't accept them, release them, work through them, or change the situation. Yes, in principle, the whole psychosomatics tells us that everything is your unlived emotions. Doctors will also tell me that stress causes my problems. And I'll go on and swallow pills, I'll go to a pharmacy, but nobody will explain to me what kind of stress is the cause. Our scientific psychosomatics defines what exactly causes particular pain, why this suppressed emotion, I want to be strong but I can't, will influence exactly the lumbar area, why will it surface in the hand of someone else's case, or in the neck area. I'll tell you about all of this briefly today. Guys, all illnesses are in our head. Have you heard about this? Yes, but everyone goes to pharmacy, yes, if there is some pain. And I used to live the same way because nobody had explained anything to me. It's like a religion. What does it say? That there is a choice. There is a God and there is no God. Hiding the third truth. That is what is actually happening.
And what about infection? For example, is it also somehow in our head?
Damn, that's such a question. People always ask this. Guys, we always explain, including viruses, if they exist at all, as some transmissible virus. Yes, we see how we can transmit feelings, and I will show you that today too. The fact that all of us are constantly involved in a so-called interhuman internet, 24/7. You can always feel what other person feels. Always. And this is just biology. There's no magic here, no energy. I don't really like such things myself. I have been fond of esoterics for about 5 years, and that's not mine. It did not work for me. It didn't help me in any way with my questions and problems, my drug addiction, my aggressiveness, my anger, my inability to live and build relationships. Although I found Zelen very helpful, I love him very much, it served as a stabilizing crutch for me. I used to follow him then. I read all the Transurfing books in a month. It was like 5 books at the time. It was 2010 or 11. All the books in 1 month. He impressed me. And then I switched to Blavatsky and all the Rerichs, the founders of esoterics in Russia in general, if you know. If someone knows who they are, if not, you can research. The Rerichs are interesting, but legs and heads can be broken in their literature. Okay, so what I have just done with Regina is psychogenetics. That is what they told you at school, that you have information about all the living organisms of your species that had lived before you, that we have the DNA structure in a molecule, all the information about everyone who had lived before us. Has everyone heard about it? And modern psychosomatics has learned to drag out this information to the level of feelings about anyone. about great-grandmother or grandmother. We can always transfer you in any state and you will feel that that is what that person has experienced. And we know how to verbalize feelings. I mean, if I ask you what you feel, you'll explain it to me. That is, you'll verbalize your feelings, right? Actually, this is what I said at the very beginning. Our thoughts is secondary, feelings are primary. A feeling arises in you and that is what causes your thoughts. If I throw something at you, first you will dodge and then you will think about what has just happened. A quarter of a second, that is, a quarter of a second separates a feeling from thoughts. The feeling flares up first, the thought pops up only after that. This explains why we don't control ourselves, to put it mildly. I want to do something, but I don't. I want to do something, but I don't. Because emotions control the situation. If the body is afraid to go somewhere, it won't let you go there. No matter how much you think about it, I want to go to a disco or somewhere else, but for some reason I don't go. Well, of course, almost everyone goes to a disco, right? Let's take going to a gym, because the body is afraid of something. Of course, this is not something related to a particular place, and that is not because of some pumped up coach who will do something to me. No, this is about the whole strategy. This is about the fact that if I go to the gym, I'll become strong. If I become strong, I'll become happy. And if I'm happy, it's dangerous, and then we'll find a conviction, and that comes from childhood. For example, if our mother or father used to say, life is hard, and if you smile, you will cry. Who has had such experience? I had it all the time. What are you laughing at constantly? You're going to cry. Why are you so cheerful all the time? What is recorded in the body as a result? Smiling and happiness equals danger. I go to the gym, I become strong, cool, handsome and happy. I'm in a cool state, I'm cheerful, and the body says, nope, it's dangerous, I won't let you go there. Because everything that happens in our body is aimed at only one thing, survival. The goal is to survive. The evolutionary goal of each of you, and I do know that some of you believe that aliens brought us here, okay. But when they brought us here, we were already evolved, right? Or God created us, and also we were already evolved, right? The church even does not deny that, because sometimes there are people at my seminars and I say, well, who knows that the earth appeared 6,500 years ago, and they raise their hands. And where did all of this come from? And I asked this after I had given the lecture and they say, we were already created like this, that is, evolved. And then I say, okay, I agree. It suits us fine too. Evolution has only one goal, for you to survive and pass on the information. You're looking for the meaning of life, but you won't find it in the context of your current life. You can find it in the context of future and past lives as well. That is, several lives. It is the same about the mission. Yesterday I started recording a story on Instagram, and I started recording a story with some ideas and got so much feedback, so many people have begun to respond that that's it, and now you won't get rid of me. Now I'll record more stories, the videos with my thoughts, since people react like that. Offers started pouring in. We do this, we do that, let's collaborate, and so on. Well, of course I used to get offers like that too, I'm not gonna hide. Anyway, if we're talking about mission, now this ideology has also become fashionable. Finding a mission. The mission is what will be continued after you're gone. This is what you begin, and it will go on blooming after you're gone. This is the mission. This is what changes other people's lives. It's what helps something to live. Get rid of this ideology. Live for yourself. Come on. Pump up your business. Pump up yourself. Become successful. Get it out of your head or replace it with higher ideology. I do it for something so that something can live to assist something. It doesn't matter whether it's children, plants, animals, the whole planet or whatever. And that's when we feel fulfilled. That's when we feel that we live for a reason, because everyone who's focused on earning money will be lost, as I said yesterday. I lost myself like that once when I used to chase money. It gives nothing. You feel empty and don't know what to do next. But fulfillment comes through emptiness. Therefore, blessed are the obstacles as they help us grow. So, our thought is secondary. It arises in the brain in a quarter of a second after some feeling appears in the body, and the impulse occurs directly in a particular organ. In this burger, the one that everyone has. Yes, the one that is located here. An impulse, and only then a thought arises in consciousness. Important decisions arise in the brain and body. Feelings occur 6 or 10 minutes before you get it in consciousness. Can you imagine? You get up, you have already gone to the bathroom, excuse me, then you left it, and then bingo, I realized what I would do. This is what I just realized, but the brain knew this about 10 minutes ago. The body already knew that it would take place. Sorry, but we don't control ourselves. Again, there is literature about free will which doesn't exist, and the research which is also boring if you read it because it's a research. In general, science is a bit boring, that's why you don't really go into science. It's more interesting to open YouTube, that's it, and there goes the triune brain, the reptilian complex, and so on. It's easier to perceive. I'm not blaming anyone in any way, but this is how ideology educates us. In the Soviet Union, they used to teach, choose one direction, and people did it, didn't they? In the Soviet Union, they used to teach, you need to have a family, and then people got married. What do they tell you now? You are free, you go and do whatever you want, but these generic remnants, they stay in the memory, they do exist, and the body plays them back. I need someone so that I have to marry someone. I can't say whether you have to or not, but a human needs another human undoubtedly. Because again, according to the study, some unrealistic amount of oxytocin is released when you hug somebody, and then everything else follows, that is dopamine, endorphin, and so on, if I'm not mistaken. Guys, if I'm wrong in something or you can always correct me, it will be great. I need it too. I like it a lot. So, look, now we start with, let's say, infancy. We all have programming phases, conflicts that occurs between our parents. What do we consider conflicts? What did I tell you? For example, I want to be strong, but my body is weak. I want, but there is a conflict between the psyche and the body. As a result, psychosomatics doesn't function well. It turns into a tension. Its intensity increases with each situation in which I realize that I cannot be strong. But I need to. I have to. My mother told me so, my father told me so, and even Putin told me so. You need to be strong and you have to work. But the body just doesn't produce. A conflict is created and that causes emotions. It is those emotions that are biologized into illness. But we'll talk more about it later, why it happens that way. So at the end, I'll tell you what can be done. I don't know if it helps you or not, but I'll tell you what to do so that a problem does not turn into illness, so that it's not biologized into a tumor or anything else. So there is a programming phase in which all parents' conflicts, well, not all conflicts of course, I'm exaggerating a bit, in which psychological conflicts of parents become biological symptoms of children. For example, parents argue a lot a year before the conception. They had been quarreling all year and then they stopped and conceived a child. The child already receives information about those issues and conflicts, about what was happening there. Nature or biology begins to prepare a child for life before it is even born. Before that, all this information is being recorded in us constantly, and everything that happened during that year is passed on to the child. Well, can you imagine that if a mom and dad argued hard, the child suddenly appears to be really neurotic for some reason? Somehow he has psychosis, and parents cannot understand why. It seemed the pregnancy was good and they ate healthy and didn't smoke or drink, but for some reason the child is neurotic. And we'll always find the answers in the programming phase. In the programming phase, in principle, the formation of personality begins, what you will project onto the life later in your childhood. Where do autistic kids come from? What is autism? Does everyone have an answer? Where is it from? Why? Well, it's clear that there's no answer here. I asked the wrong audience, sorry.
The child hides the emotions inside.
Well, here you go, you have the highest grade, and happiness as well, and health. I'm serious. What is autism? The child is closed, isolated. Sure, it's scary, I understand, but today I'll talk about many things a bit cynically, because it's my job. If I'm not a little cynical, I myself will slip up somewhere. Who saw what I shared yesterday? People keep on telling me, how do you take it all, put up with our emotions? I don't tolerate anything. Such topics are already resolved inside of me. They don't affect me. I can work with anyone and anything. Of course, I will have some unresolved issues. Sometimes I feel a click during a session and I immediately ask my colleague to help me and I work with someone from my own circle. Anyway, so parents are fighting and a child simply doesn't want to hear it. The autistic spectrum means that the child goes inside himself, an inward shutdown. They called it this way. He goes around, knocks everything down, sees or hears nothing, and that's the way it is. I always recommend to parents of such children, take him to the forest and see what happens. You stuff him with drugs, you take him to doctors. The child retreats even more. The child is scared because you're causing that to happen. Any child under the age of 3 lives with the feelings of his mother. And what does the child feel? Fear and anger. And he or she starts to retreat even more. Evolutionary, our body has only 2 states, a state of comfort and a state of discomfort. You can remember this. Discomfort. All your emotions, sadness, sorrow, what else you feel there, all of that refers to discomfort. Discomfort is always fear. Evolutionary, if you experience something uncomfortable for the body, it means that there is a danger, so there is a threat to survival. And the body survives in these conditions. It does everything to survive. Depending on the intensity of these emotions, it triggers a biological response so that you survive. Because biologically, the body does not really care about your consciousness and what's happening there. Consciousness evolved 4 million years ago, while your body began to form 400 million years ago. Well, guess who's in charge? Well, comfort though, everything is clear, isn't it? Everything that does not make me stressful, cry, tense, and so on. So, for a child, if his mother takes her baby to the hospital and she is tense, for the child and for his body, the situation is perceived as a threat to survival, and the body does everything to avoid this threat. It causes inward shutdown. The kid retreats more and more and more. I recommend to such parents to take their child to the forest and just observe what happens to him for a few hours. He begins to hear a bit. Well, not always, of course, but then begin to open up, such kids, just a little bit, but they finally begin. Doesn't that mean that the child retreats from external factors? Of course it does. This is how we explain to such parents what is happening with their child, because they're already so scared by medicine that they don't know what to do. So, after the programming phase, an embryo starts to grow in a woman's womb. I always talk about it in detail at my seminar, but today I'll talk about it briefly. But again, we'll touch upon everything. So an embryo appears in a woman's womb. Initially it's called a zygote, this little something after the cells just joined. This is a zygote. And then it turns into an embryo. And all living things on Earth are formed from 3 embryonic germ layers. I know it may sound difficult now, incomprehensible, and you're likely to forget it later, but it's necessary to mention it because this is the basis of psychosomatics. We're all formed in the mother's womb from 3 embryonic germ layers. The first one is the endoderm. The endoderm layer. The second one is the mesoderm. The mesoderm germ layer. And the third one, the ectoderm germ layer. All living organisms are formed from these 3 germ layers. In psychosomatics, we divide the mesoderm into an older and a younger group. I'll tell you why. There is the old mesoderm and the new mesoderm. The organs and parts of the brain are formed from each germ layer. This germ layer is the oldest of the 3, which began to form about 400 million years ago, and it's also called the reptilian brain. Has anyone heard about it? I don't like this definition. For me, it's not quite appropriate. Our brainstem was formed from here. The brainstem and the entire excretory system, lungs, kidneys. Not completely. Many organs consist of several layers at once, I mean tissues from different layers. But the basis of the endoderm is lungs, our reproductive system, kidneys, thyroid glands, tonsils. By the way, we'll start with the latter. It can be also found in our eyes and ears. And with this thing, the endoderm, and accordingly with all the organs that emerge from it, will react to the so-called Morsel conflicts. Soon you'll understand what I mean. I know this is some dark woods yet. What? Morsels? What is he talking about? What morsels? He started talking about children, now he switched to morsels. What is that about? So, Morsel Conflicts. I'm writing down just a morsel because I'm going to draw a diagram here. Morsel Conflicts, what are they? Look, all our diseases follow the same pattern. All of them. All our diseases. I'm hammering this into your head. Follow the same pattern. And I'm drawing this for you. And obviously this diagram can be infinite. This is what we call a chronic disease. Relapses, aggravation, and then again relapse, and then it becomes a little better again. Does everyone knows what it is? Who has some kind of a chronic disease? Can you even please raise your hands? Wow. Was it me who gathered such an audience or what? I would ask the organizer, where did you find all of them? Lots of hands. But I've gathered you guys. Well, that is my case as well. By the age of 25, I had more than 15 diagnoses. I don't know, I guess it's not worth listing all them now, but all the time I used to ask the doctors why, what's wrong with me? Well, I thought that most likely that's the result of drugs, alcohol and so on, because as I said, I started smoking cigarettes at the age of 6 and I didn't stop smoking until I was 25. Actually, no illness could stop me at all, besides of drugs, alcohol and so on. I thought it was the reason. It turned out that it also came from the psyche. Because I stopped and quit drugs and began treatments, everything went away, and after 6 months or a year, everything was coming back again. They said to me, well, you understand that all the diseases are getting younger, there's much more stress. Well, I understood, but for some reason I couldn't believe it. I did not believe, first of all, because of my damaged teeth. I think since the grade 6 or 7 they were damaged symmetrically. I asked dentists why I had tooth number 6 damaged on both sides at once, or number 4 on both sides, symmetrically. They explained to me that there were some nerves, something there, this and that, and come on, get out of here, young man, you don't understand anything about this anyway. It surprised me why it was happening at the same time. If the teeth are damaged because of eating sweets, why are they damaged on both sides at the same time? How does it happen? Why aren't number 4 and 6 damaged? Why number 6 in particular? It has turned out that there was some very interesting answers to that. Anyway, all diseases follow the same pattern. This is a so-called active phase, the active phase. This is what a medicine considers as stress, as a result of which you get sick. And then there is a healing phase. This is what feels like a disease. This is when you have running nose or some pain, or your tail has already begun to fall off. This is a healing phase. This needs to be considered. Look, once we were all the simplest one-celled creatures. That is, what we came out of used to look like this. It used to look like this, and this microorganism lived according to one principle. It had to eat something, and then it was necessary to defecate it. That's it. All its life activity ended there. In principle, we came out of this later. Can you imagine that this thing was turned into the gastrointestinal tract from which everything started afterwards? If anyone is a little familiar with the theory of evolution, so that is the way it is. The simplest one-celled protozoa had only one hole as an entrance and exit. We ate and defecated through one hole. Can you imagine? And the only stress this microorganism could experience was the ability to consume an available morsel or expel it. Expelling was easier if you had already consumed it, but the fact that it couldn't swallow it because the huge size meant it was probably going to die. Because it couldn't eat it, right? Now it has become a lot easier for us. Some people are fasting for 7 days. For this microorganism, the inability to swallow the morsel was the cause of stress. And when this microorganism came across some morsel that was bigger than necessary, the right gland was activated. More mucus was secreted in order to lubricate the morsel. We are already talking about morsel conflicts. in order to lubricate this morsel and so that the microorganism could swallow it. The left gland was responsible for expelling, that is, in order to release mucus, to lubricate all of our vital products and to expel them. If the morsel was too large, the gland would increase in size. Let's assume that it was a tumor because the cells divide. If a histology is done, they divide and very rapidly. And if it's a malignant, division happens even more quickly. And the cells were divided in order to produce more mucus, so that the microorganism could swallow the morsel. When this morsel passed through the entire system, the mucus was released from there. The gland was also increased in size slightly in order to produce the mucus and expel the morsel. This microorganism was divided into a gastrointestinal tract, and can you imagine we have these glands? And who can guess where we have these glands?
Tonsils.
Exactly. Perfect. Guys, that's our tonsils, and they respond to morsel conflicts. Who has children or who had problems with tonsils themselves? Lots of hands, you guys. And there are people with kids. Do your children's tonsils hurt? Do they get inflamed? Do they cough? And what is the reason for coughing? This should be taken into consideration as well. Adenoids? Well, look, I'm a small child. I really want some toy that my mother does not buy for me because there's no money, because I did not deserve it, or for any other reason. I want this toy. Our body controls us because it's 400 years old. 400. Well, I mean the brainstem. Initially, all your situations, everything that you come across in life passes through the brainstem, cerebellum and hemispheres. Always. Filtering process is in progress. And if you react at morsel conflicts very strongly, if you have a strategy about which I'll talk now, reacting strategy to morsel conflicts, then you'll fail at the very first filter. I mean, they say something like this: let's go and do this, but you have some fear. Okay, now stop. Let's have a look again. The child wants a toy. The child wants a toy really bad, but it does not receive it for several days. What does it mean for a child? Stress. The child does not receive it. He's nervous. His body feels that he's nervous. And there are two states for the body: comfortable and uncomfortable. Everything that is uncomfortable is perceived as a threat to survival. If the body is stressed, then it means that there is a threat to survival, because if a dog feels uncomfortable, that there is some danger nearby, and the dog will just leave the territory. But we are social beings. We can't just leave the apartment. We can't leave our workplace, even though we're very uncomfortable there. And for a child, this is stressful. It means that this is an uncomfortable state. The body perceives it as a threat to survival. What is a toy for a child? Metaphorically, I want to get it. That's a hint. I want to get it. The body perceives this as an incoming morsel, one that I cannot get. I am stressed, and that is a threat to survival because I can't get the morsel. What will happen to a child? The child glands will literally begin to enlarge, in the literal sense of the word. The conflict's active phase, the stress, the right gland increases in size as a result of reaction to an incoming morsel. The child does not experience any pain or feelings. He's just crying, "Mom, I want a toy." At the same time, he does not want to eat some soup, and he does not want to go to the kindergarten. How this is perceived by the body? Stress, outgoing morsel. I don't want this. I need to expel it. I need to reject it. The left gland gets inflamed. If we are like this, I drew it the other way around for the right-handed people. The right size is assigned to incoming morsel and the left size to the outgoing one. The child's tonsils increase in size in order to produce more mucus so that he receives this desirable piece and expels an unwanted one. And now let's assume that the mother has bought a toy. A child, for instance, did not go to kindergarten or forgot about it, fell asleep, and so on. There is no more stress. The body goes into the healing phase. But this extra tissue needs to be removed. Remember this, in our body, everything is healed by swelling or inflammation. What happens in the tonsils? Inflammation. What does mom say? Oh, you ate an ice cream, or you went out without a scarf, and so on. Guys, this has nothing to do with the cold. Well, it does, but indirectly. I'll explain why. That is, we can enhance the cold phase of stress with the help of cold. we can intensify it, and the body will quickly switch to the healing phase. But there should already be some presence of stress in the psyche. This explains why we sometimes get sick and sometimes we don't. When there is a conflict situation inside us, cold just intensifies it, and we enter the healing phase later. When such situation does not exist, well, I can walk around naked. Here's a story. Until the age of 25, I used to know that you can't go outside after a shower for 2 hours or you'll get sick. I was taught this by my mom. Mom used to say, don't go outside for 2 hours after taking shower. Even if you get dry, you'll get sick. After the age of 25, I went out, and what do you think happened? I used to dry myself completely. After an hour or 2.5, I swear, I started to have a runny nose. What was my body starting to do? Defend itself, because the authority said it was dangerous. Mother is the authority figure up to the age of 3. Everything she says your body records as a mutable truth. Even if you don't remember this, the body records the feelings that mother transmits. Under the age of 3, a child doesn't have his own consciousness. He lives by relying on mother's feelings. Now imagine that you're a small child, you go to the hospital with your mother, mother is your authority, she means the whole world to you, and then something white comes out, some kind of an impulse is produced, and your world shudders. Your world is experiencing stress or anxiety. What will the child's body record? That besides my world, there is another world that decides something. And later, when you go to the hospital as an adult, even though nothing hurts, you're already scared, and you don't understand why. And not only you don't understand, you don't even question yourself. Why am I scared? Because in childhood, it stressed your mother out. Back at the maternity hospital, for example, because something went wrong, a child was taken away, something was scary, it was possible to get sick or infected or so on. During the healing phase, a child's tonsils get inflamed. This is the healing phase. Smart mothers treat this with some ice cream. If anyone doesn't know, you can reduce inflammation with the help of ice cream. But on one condition, that conflict situations are removed from the psyche and there is no possibility of a relapse. Because now you have distracted him, taken him to somewhere, he's forgotten about the toy, tonsils have got inflamed. And then you went to the store again, he saw the same toy, the body will move into the active conflict phase again, and the tonsils will begin to increase in size again, but there will be more severe inflammation. And the process will become more complicated. Because of this, tonsils are usually removed. Doctors just don't know what to do. They see that something is happening. Doctors describe the process itself, diabetes for instance. You go in and say, my sugar level is increased, and the doc starts to identify the parts of this whole process. He identifies that insulin is not secreted because the pancreatic islets do not produce it. That's it. For you it becomes an explanation. But why doesn't my pancreas produce insulin? Why? No one asks this question. And whoever asks, they will be told that the immune system is weak, the ecology isn't good enough, and you're not eating healthy. And with this universal set of answers which is given to your every question, you go and live, and then you sit down and start drinking. Well, it's a celebration. Diabetes, it should be celebrated to be recovered. And when they ask you, you reply, well, insulin, pancreatic islets. The neighbor is sitting and thinking, what kind of pancreatic islets? Well, probably yeah, sure, let's have another drink. So is this how it happens, or is it not? Not this way, right? Do you understand a little about tonsils? All the inflamed tonsils are responsible for it. Even among you adults, if you feel that something hurts here sometimes on the right side, or if you're right-handed, ask yourself, what is it that I wanted to get so bad and I didn't get it? I was going to tell you about it in my previous seminar. I mentioned it and then forgot because, as always, I didn't have enough time. Because now I don't mind timing, I'm just speaking. I want to give more and more and more. So, and I was waiting for the seminar as well because I wanted everything to work out so bad that my right tonsil here increased in size. And on the day of the seminar, it became painful because that was it. We already started to implement it. The extra tissue was no longer needed. My body perceived it as a morsel. Well, look, the morsels can be verbal, visual, or even metaphorical. All that you can imagine as a morsel. I want a car, I want a child, I want a seminar. All of this is perceived as a morsel. The reason why the body reacts with tonsils or anything else is a generic predisposition. An answer can be found in psychogenetics. That is, if my mother ran away from a lion, then I had a gene of fear of lions. But if I live in a place where there is not a single lion, then the gene remains dormant. But more often we live in the same environment as our parents, and that's why we get the same set of reactions, emotions as they have. You are all your parents. Accept it right away for at least 1 minute and things will become easier for you. You will immediately get to the 0 points from which you will begin to change and become yourself. Anyone who denies it, who doesn't want to be like mom or like dad, you will become them even more. Just because you deny it, but it is in the body, another conflict is created because of which you experience uncomfortable emotions. Why is my life like that? Why am I so angry? Why am I uncomfortable? And so on. Accept that you are just like your parents. After that, you will begin to change. Okay, look, so what else can we say about morsel conflicts or endoderm? Where's the air conditioner here? Okay, right. So I'm running away from a lion. And the lungs, for me and for you, are a basic need. If I don't breathe, I die. I know that those of you who aren't at the seminar for the first time have already heard about this, probably several times, but listen again. So, I'm running away from a lion, and for me, the lungs, that is, if I don't breathe, I die, right? That means if any one of us doesn't breathe, we die immediately. During the stress, we can die very quickly. We won't even last 1 minute because oxygen intake increases and the body needs more oxygen because it escapes danger. So if I don't breathe, I die. For the body, a lack of oxygen is perceived as a direct fear of death. I don't breathe means that I've already died. I may not drink, I may not eat, I may not even see the sun for a few days, but I can survive for some time. If I don't breathe, I'm dying. So I'm running away from a lion. Let's say I have been running away from it for several days, right? For an emotion to biologize, you should suffer from it for several days. 4 days are enough. And when you don't know what to do, you just stress out more and more, and then biology is turned on to help you, just as the body has always done in nature. So I've been running away from a lion for 4 days, and I can't run away. I don't know what to do. The body will switch on the biology. For me, a lion is a direct fear of death. Metaphorically, this is a lack of oxygen. For the body, the direct fear of death is a lack of oxygen. The body begins to grow a tumor in the lungs, lung cancer. While I'm running away from a lion for 4 or 5 days, a tumor is growing in my lungs. The body saves me so that I can breathe in more oxygen and run away from danger, so that I can breathe and inhale enough oxygen. I'm running away from a lion. The tumor is growing, I don't feel anything. Why do they say that oncological diagnoses are discovered either at the last stage or totally by accident? Because nothing hurts. Because while the tumor is growing, the body, therefore, is in a stress-active phase. It is escaping from danger. But when something hurts, you cannot run away from a lion, can you? Therefore, there is no pain at all in the stress phase. Why is it so difficult to correlate in general that all diseases come from stress? Because in general, nothing hurts during stress. And when you already feel pain, it means that the body has entered the healing phase. In the head, you already let go of the situation and you're like, damn, everything was so cool, but I got sick. I ran away from a lion and got into the cave. The lion is no longer there, that is, there's no danger, and the body enters a healing phase. And the tumor is in the lungs. And what do you think will happen? The body produces microbacteria and tubercle bacillus to work. The tubercular decay of the tumor begins. And if you go to the hospital at that moment, me for example, I'll be diagnosed with tuberculosis. And if I go to the hospital during this phase, the diagnosis will be lung cancer. Lung tumor, lung cancer, and tuberculosis are 2 phases of the same biological program, but they make 2 separate diagnoses, both of them fatal. You'll be immediately told go to church. Well, depending of course on the stage. Is this clear or not? Well, do you at least hear me? Do you? What did you want to ask, Snow White?
I would like to ask, if a morsel is desirable, but rejection occurs, does it mean that you always need to satisfy your impulses?
Well, simply accept the fact that you cannot get everything you want. Just say yes to this fact. What's the point? Why is emotion biologized? Because you don't realize what to do here. I want it and that's all I needed and that's all. Business coaches told me here that I need to earn it. Yes, I attended and screamed at Tony Robbins seminars. Yes, I go around like this. I need to do this. And meanwhile, the body is unable to do it. We're not all aimed at success or something. We are not aimed at it. Our body just lives. Yes, it lives for something, but not to run somewhere and so on. Relate to what you can do. Ask yourself, can I do this? And the consciousness always tells you yes or no. Well, if it says no, accept it. Why are you all rushing there? Why do you all need this? Of course, no one is to blame. This is the ideology. We are all coreless. We need an ideology. We need a leader. Always. We can't do anything on our own. Drop us off on the island and say, create something of your own. We won't create anything. We can't do anything, guys. That's why we come together in groups. And this, by the way, comes from the third embryonic germ layer. Why did it even appear? Why do we even have hemispheres? Why did they evolve after all? Why did they begin to evolve 4 million years ago? Why is this happening?
I still don't get it. Well, there is a child. You cannot tell him not to desire. He will continue to want further.
And how old is the child, for instance?
Well, I don't have a child.
Well, for example, I mean. You gave me an example, didn't you? Can you explain it to him with the help of feelings or not? Well, it just doesn't matter in reality. Everything is good, except that now you don't have it. Tell him, accept that you don't have it now. Say yes to that. Accept that you don't have it. I love you anyway. Come here. We'll talk about it at the end. Why stress has become a disease for a child, or for you, or for me, but for someone it won't happen. Hello.
Hi.
And what's your name?
Masha.
Why are you so happy? Normally, happy people don't come here. They don't come here at all, the happy ones. So, what have you got, Masha?
Pimples constantly pop up on my face. Pimples. Well, I mean, there is always rash on my skin.
Now, if I ask you to visualize any picture, memory, or maybe a person, who will come to your mind first? Oh, there's someone flashed.
My mom?
Yes. And now please visualize your pimples in your imagination. How do you see them? It can be in the mirror, whatever. Do you see? Well, just see your pimples in your imagination, the way you saw them once, for example. What? Can't you do it? As soon as mom is remembered, she retreats right away, immediately forgot everything. Well, can't you still see? So you don't have any pimples then? Have you ever seen yourself with pimples? Never seen them. Why did you come here then? I don't really understand. Oh, she's just sparkling here all over now. I understand. I'm just kidding, really. When did you get pimples? At what age?
2 or 3 years.
And when did you have there? I mean, when you were 2 or 3?
Well, I meant I got it about 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, 2 or 3 years ago. Let me hold you by the fingers so that I can feel. You don't even know how she's cracking up. You have no idea. But this doesn't mean that I'm strong or something. It means that she has a predisposition to react with such feelings to everything that happens. I don't do anything at all. Well, it's already being passed to my hand, and I'll start now. What are we going to do?
Breathe.
Well, what's the point? Pimples won't go away if you breathe. What happened there anyway? I wanted you to catch that. Then it comes again. There it comes again. What happened there? Come on. Any picture, any memory. That's it. My mother used to say it this way. That's it. Come on, this one. That's the one. What do you see there? Whatever you see, just say it. Just say it.
I don't see anything.
Well, you're lying. So do you want to live with these pimples? Well, she's clenching. Something is clicking and her fist clenches. So that it is. It's just that maybe her brain is afraid to realize it. The thing is that we don't remember how this or that situation started because we felt so uncomfortable that the body forces it out of the psyche. What are you thinking about right now? What is that? Now you're thinking about this.
But I cannot catch it.
Can't you catch it? Who is it related to? Tell me a word. Who is it related to? Who is it related to? There, in your head right now.
A man?
And what's his name? What is his name? Just say it. You can do it. It's very safe in here. Come on. Okay, you don't have to say the name.
Father?
All right, and what did he do? Just say it. Say it, come on. Come on, that thing. Come on.
I don't know.
What did he do? What did he say? What comes to your mind? Oh, come on, I'm not pushing you because you will run away. What did your father say or do? Come on, any memory with dad. Any memory with your dad.
Well, actually he said that I'm not pretty.
Not pretty. Okay, now agree with him that you're not pretty.
I'm not pretty.
Yes. And how does it feel? And immediately she relaxed her hand. So, is any kind of therapy still needed? She started to breathe and to laugh. Yes, now ask your body, do you have pimples now? Yes or no? Shall we applaud or not?
Thank you.
You write to me or come to me later, okay? There are some things to polish up, but the result is already there. Alright, and we'll immediately proceed to the second tissue. Well, look, we're not discussing a thyroid gland. Or should we? Who has thyroid gland problem? Who has hypothyroidism? All of these are Morsel conflicts. It's when a person shares something with someone and when he shares, he cannot get a morsel. It can be anything like inheritance or business. The body starts to enlarge the pancreas, producing more juice that is, well, come on, do it. And now this morsel will come and will digest it. But if you don't get it, you'll get a pancreatitis. You'll find a pancreatitis in the healing phase. In the conflict active phase, you don't feel anything, nothing hurts. Pain is present only in the healing phase. I have Anya here, a photographer. She had been suffering with it for 3 years. It took us 10 minutes. I just stopped by to get a video. She said it hurt a lot. I touched it. It was swollen. It was a ball, literally. After 10 minutes, I left her. Several months have passed already, and she doesn't drink anything. She doesn't take anything. I mean, pills, and everything's great with her. It was enough to explain what it was. After the seminar, some of you will be blown away. I wanted to say this at the end, but I'll say it now. Some of you will enter the healing phase. Runny nose, cold, and so on. Rejoice. I'm serious, rejoice. Each and every one of you will have individual reaction. Some people are washed over after the seminar. At least 5 or 10 people. And 2 people usually get pregnant. And there's normally 1 man among them, I'd like to say. Also, I'd like to talk about tracks. There are some reminders for the body. Even for me, sometimes it's difficult to pull a person out of this permanently repetitive chronic process, because he constantly comes across the reminders. How did I begin the seminar? I say a word and it reminds you of some illness. The stress is activated. You felt tense. I said oncology, and even though I am Anton Antonov, you were tense. Do you understand what the point is? This is a reminder, a track for the body. And during a stressful situation in which, for example, I was told that I wasn't pretty, my body records everything that was around me. We don't know yet why it records this thing for one person and different thing for another, but it is clear that there are many different things recorded. What kind of smells, what kind of trees were present, what the feeling was under the feet, what birds were singing. Well, figuratively speaking, the reminders. In order to activate the same problem next time, because it is associated with discomfort and therefore with the threat of survival, with stress. I was told that I was ugly, My body recorded where I was at that moment, what was happening around, and then nobody tells me that again. But the body constantly sees these reminders and activates this program. Why is it doing that? Because when I was running away from a lion, my body recorded everything. And since everything is aimed at one thing, survival, next time I go, there's no lion, but the leaves and the trees are the same, the birds are the same, the smells are the same. What will the body do? It will activate the same fear again because, God forbid, a lion appears. You do understand what the point is, don't you? Did you get what the track means? I showed you this. I said I am oncology and there was a fear response in you. Why? Because oncology is dangerous, therefore a threat to survival. You always need to be alert when you hear this word. Do you get the point? Look, now we'll discuss the second embryonic germ layer, the old mesoderm, and then take a break. This is our cerebellum. This is what began to form 40 million years ago. The mesoderm germ layer, the embryo mesoderm germ layer. This is our cerebellum. The Psychosomatics conventionally divides the mesoderm into two groups. The old one, which is the cerebellum and the dermis, and the younger one, that is the grey or sometimes called white matter of the brain. The so-called brain parenchyma. This is what we're always told in school. Well, it was like this, at least in my case. Why, don't you have enough grey matter in your brain? Because it is believed that our neurons are concentrated there. But I'll tell you a little secret. There are approximately 86 billion neurons in the brain and 70 billions of them are located in the brain stem. So that's the one in charge, guys. Setting goals, write down the goal and it will come true. That is all operated from there. And it really works. There is a section in the brain, the reticular formation in the brain stem. This is the section of neurons that is responsible for targeting. That is when you decide to buy a new car and it turns out that there are a lot of them already. Have you noticed that? Everyone notices that. You want something and you start seeing it. This is how the reticular formation, the brainstem, works. Therefore, if you write something down, the brain really starts looking for it everywhere. For example, you write down, I want to go to Udmurtia, and the body unconsciously begins searching for all the possibilities to go to Udmurtia. This is already programmed. This is what I mean when I say that thought is secondary. Why do we write it down? A goal which is not written down is not a goal at all. Let me tell you something, this is not esoterics. In 2014, I was sitting in the office at work where, in principle, everything was going fine for me, but I was feeling terrible inside. I wrote down in a notebook, I want to leave the city in 2 years and move to Moscow. And the notebook was lost afterwards. I quit the job, gathered everything in boxes, took them somewhere in an apartment and placed them in the basement. Well, not exactly basement, but the storage place. And I moved to Moscow in 2016, in August. On September the 2nd, I returned to Tver to collect my belongings, went downstairs, found the box. Look, goosebumps. I found this box, opened this notebook. It was written in August 2014. In 2 years, I want to move to Moscow. I was shocked. I wrote a post about it and said, guys, a goal that is not written down is not a goal at all. And then when I began to practice, well, not practice really, but study the brain research, I learned about the reticular formation, the neuron section, and I understood how it worked. I understand that a cat really does not care why it is warm in here. Maybe some warm water pipes are passing through this place or something. She simply comes, feels it's warm, sits down, feels good. Many of us don't need any of this. That's the way I am. I'm interested in this. I don't really know what else to do on this earth unless I research and pass information along to a large audience. And maybe I should have a baby and everything will be great then. Maybe everything will be clear right away and I'll be like, I don't really care about you people, go and learn by yourself. So, the mesoderm layer. The old mesoderm layer began to form when we started to crawl out of water. We needed the skin layer. This is not the epidermis, not the top layer, this is the bottom one, the dermis. We began to climb out of the water and something could hit us, bite us, cause some damage to us. The dermis began to form for protection, but just at the time the thickness started to form. For us now, we already have it formed, the body maintains it. At that time, it was just being developed. And it was, how do I call it, a mammal, a reptile, what was that? An amphibian, yes. If something used to hit it, then the dermis thickened in that area. It began to develop and then it thickened. And now we have this thickening in the form of a program. Take pimples, for instance. That's the dermis, that's not the epidermis. This is the subcutaneous layer. In principle, both cosmetology and medicine explain this to us. However, the conflicts have become metaphorical. We're not often get hit hard physically. Well, if somebody hits us, a bruise developed and so on. But nowadays, we're being hit metaphorically. I was told that I was ugly. Where did it hit me? In the face. And I'm going around thinking about it for several days, and after 4 days I didn't resolve it. The body unloads and displaces the memory of someone telling me something into the unconscious. This emotion begins to biologize. Biologize in order to protect us, because the body knows how to do it. And the body begins to thicken the dermis on the face to protect me from the following attack. But we have the programmed thickness, and when we go to bed, we leave the tracks, the reminders. There is no dangers anymore. The body enters the healing phase. Outstanding students, how is everything healed in our body? By swelling or inflammation. What do I see in the morning when I get up? The dermis needs to be removed. The body activates the inflammation process to remove the dermis. Therefore, I wake up and I have pimples. Everyone has experienced that sometimes you get up in the morning and you have a pimple. Haven't you? Yes or no? Well, of course you do. In the morning, constantly relapsing. There are constantly reminders of something. Most likely, there were several conflicts. Not only one, but when they said something. It can be any kind of words that are perceived as an attack. It rarely happens to me when they say something unpleasant in my face. Guys, I am not God. I am human. I also get sick. No one can run away from it completely. It is impossible. Our body evolves as a result of this all. And we resolved that with Masha. Masha and I resolved this topic. And it will be recorded in her gene that it is safe and her children will no longer receive the same strategy. Getting sick is the way to transmit healthier information forward, more adapted information. Stress is a method of adaptation. Nobody can avoid stress. It doesn't work that way. Nobody can avoid this phase. These life coaches who teach you, you'll always be happy, you'll always be healthy or something like that. Well, that's fucking nonsense. We'll edit this out. That's a lie, guys. The body isn't programmed to live like that. Evolution never intended to avoid stress. Stress is a method of adaptation. Due to this, we adapt to constantly changing circumstances. So pimples are there. I got up in the morning and I went to school, and again, there are those guys or maybe girls who said that I was ugly. What's in my body again? It enters the same active phase again. There is a thickening of the dermis all over again. What makes acne look so awful? Let's call it unattractive. Because there is a constant relapses up and down, that's all. Melanomas are the same as pimples, just the intensity is higher. The intensity is so high that the body already activates melanoma. What do we call melanoma? We call it a healing phase when it is already visible. So to speak, when cancer is already manifesting. This is a healing phase, again, because of the relapses it may look unattractive. This, by the way, is the epidemic of leprosy in the 16th century. This is melanoma, that's what it is. These conflicts are not only called the attack conflicts. As we've just seen it, the attack was present. But they're also called the conflicts of intrusion or devaluation. Why were people thought to be infected with leprosy? Because what do people feel if they come close into contact with someone like that? They consider it as an attack on the skin, and the body begins to defend itself. And a person's skin will change, and the person is told, okay, that's it, go to the leper colony. And they take him away, put on a hoodie, wrap him up, and then he dies. Well, thanks God it doesn't take place anymore. Now we know that is melanoma. Melanoma and pimples are one and the same thing. Can you imagine? In general, there are only 172 special biological programs in Psychosomatics. You open any medical reference book. Open the ICD, please, the International Classification of Diseases. If we place a list on the road, it can reach Ubud or even the borders of Changi. And that's how long the list would be. 172 in total. The point is that the pimples and melanoma belong to one program, and everything in between, everything related to dermis, belongs to the same program. Only the intensities are different. That's all. Well, shall we have a break or questions? Let's ask questions after the break. Thanks. Now, applaud everybody.